So No BS has a video about the new Netflix movie Enola Holmes. For those who don't know, Enola Holmes is it's like a kid's book or young adult. I don't even know. Probably tween. Tween would probably be the age group to put it in. Sort of with like, maybe a little younger than Twilight, but probably older than A Series of Unfortunate Events. Maybe around the same age as A Series of Unfortunate Events, depending on when you read them. Either way, Enola Holmes is the sister of Sherlock Holmes, and she solves mysteries, right? So I hadn't heard of this series prior to the movie, but apparently it's relatively popular. And they also have, what was I going to search? Oh, Enola Holmes movie. And it's become a Netflix movie produced by and starring Millie Bobby Brown. I thought it was good. I saw it. It was a cute movie. It's a movie for, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds. It was cute. It's not the best movie ever. It's certainly not a bad movie. It's just okay. It's entertaining if you're like a tween. Or an adult who just wants something to sit down and watch for an hour and a half or however long it is. And in it, Superman plays Sherlock Holmes, which is weird because Sherlock Holmes is not buff like that, but I don't really care. Anyway, No BS has a video called Sherlock Holmes Gets a Lady version, and I assume he's going to be salty about that for some reason.
Hello and welcome back to No BS.
This is the peak of YouTube still image avatars. Just a guy with a bullhead wearing a Make America Great Again hat. It's like self-parody at this point. Thank you, Dr. Gamble, for 200 bits. Appreciate it.
Today, we return to talking about the biggest streaming service in the country and perhaps the world. I'm of course talking about Netflix. Netflix has shown itself to be increasingly woke over the years too. More specific.
Wait, which is it? Is it woke or because right-wingers are really flipping out about cuties. Probably rightfully so to an extent, but so which is it? Is YouTube, or not YouTube, is Netflix woke or are they full of pedophiles? Which is it?
Specifically, over the past year, they've been siding with Democrats, leftists, and their far left ideology for a long...
The Democrats' far left ideology of having a healthcare system where people don't go bankrupt for getting cancer. The horror. The system that every other Western country has. Weird.
Time now. This has been proven by them hiring many former...
Daddy Sume with 10 bits. It's weird because the Doyle estate is suing Netflix for Enola because Sherlock is actually kind and has emotions, which is something characteristic of Doyle's later work, and they're saying that it's copyright infringement because the later works aren't public access or whatever the term is. Yeah, it's very stupid. Incredibly stupid.
Former politicians and current Democratic politicians, including making documentaries with AOC, and both the Obamas, Barack and Michelle, have both had big, long-running contracts with Netflix. This has also come out in the other programming they've made by it getting influenced by them too. Lots of pro-woke, alphabet-themed shows.
Alphabet-themed shows. When he says that, he means there's shows with LGBTQ plus, the word I'm thinking of.
People? Characters?
No. I mean, yes, but that's not the word I'm thinking of. Representation. That's the word.
Drag-centered show.
And they remade Queer Eye in the past couple of years or something, which I assume is something that he's referencing.
There's been shows with young kids, like we've talked about that Cuties movie and its drama. And today we're talking about...
Cuties isn't a movie for children. You know that, right?
About a new spin, a new angle, a new show/movie that Netflix just came out, which is basically a lady reboot of Sherlock Holmes.
No, it's not. It's an adaptation of a children's book series, which happens to star Sherlock Holmes' younger sister.
Those who don't know, Sherlock Holmes...
They didn't say, oh, hey folks, this is Shirley Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is in the movie.
Holmes is the famous book series by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and it's essentially the quintessential detective novel. Sherlock Holmes is this super smart detective who has had many successful books in the past that have also been interpreted and translated into TV and film many, many times. Now, you could say Netflix's new take is a bit more refreshing or fresh because they're doing a lady reboot of it, but
No, they're not. Did he not take 5 seconds to Google what this is before he even, like... Did he take 5 seconds to look this up prior to making a video about it? Because if I were to make a video about, like, a movie or something I never heard of before, I'd at least Google what it was. Netflix didn't sit around and say, like, we want to make Sherlock Holmes, but a lady one. It's an adaptation of a already popular children's book series that stars Sherlock Holmes' sister. What?
but at the same time,
I don't even think Netflix made this. I think they bought it. It was originally going to come out in theaters, and then Warner Brothers, because of COVID and stuff, ended up selling it to Netflix, so it released on there.
Open the window blinds.
it does fall in line with all their other woke stuff, so I really do think it's time.
Women existing in media is woke. Did you guys know that? Any character on TV that doesn't have a big old dong is representative of the woke agenda. Dr. Gamble with 10 bits. You're under the assumption that he does research for his vids. Do you really want to give him that much credit? I mean, I'd think if you're doing anything online, you would take 5 seconds to Google it. Like, come on, he had to have.
To talk about it and get into some of these details and how they made a lady Sherlock Holmes. Essentially, it's Sherlock Holmes' younger sister that's featured in this movie. It's called Enola Holmes.
Enola. It's called Enola Holmes. Did you even watch the trailer for the movie before you went and made a video about it? My God.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Devious Chillster 25 bits. But what about the girls with big old dongs? Is that woke? Well, I'm looking at it from his perspective, and he definitely doesn't think girls with big old dongs are girls, so...
And that's a strange name, and it's obviously a girl version of him. And we'll see how it all plays out, because this isn't actually the first time this story and series has been girl-washed, so to speak. They've had other feminist spin-offs over the past 2.
Having a woman in something does not automatically make it feminist. It can be, but just having a woman in something, starring in something, is not inherently feminist.
So we're going to talk about all those and the new one soon. We're going to get to the details and more, but first, let's take a quick moment to check out our sponsor. Right now, it's never a better time to support our...
He's literally shilling for these disgusting, like, Second Amendment gold coins. Friendos, don't you know that the Federal Reserve is a conspiracy put together by the cabal? You need guns, and when you need guns, you also need gold for the global financial collapse. Buy our Second Amendment gun gold. It's like they put a bunch of right-wing, like, grifter stuff into, like, a Mad Lib, and they're like, Second Amendment gold coins?
Second Amendment and our right to bear arms and protect ourselves. I mean, think about all the chaos going on in this country. Now's never been a better time to get yourself some self-defense and exert your Second Amendment right here in the United States of America. And
what does gold have to do with that?
that's why I say we should also get these free gold coins to help represent that. These coins are being given away for free right now for a limited time, only if you click the link below this video.
And you can also buy them. Let me guess. Just pay shipping. Oh boy, what do you think the shipping is on these? The shipping, we only ask you to cover $9.95. I have a feeling $9.95 is the cost of this coin. This is a scam because dumb old people or dumb right-wingers will be like, ooh, a gold coin. Gold coins are worth a bunch of money. And it's not a solid gold coin. It's gold-plated. It doesn't cost a lot of money to ship. You could probably ship this in an envelope with maybe 2 stamps, if that. So that's incredibly cheap. And then just making like a coin out of some really cheap metal and plating it with a very thin layer of gold, not expensive. So this coin that they're selling for $9.95, the gold on it is worth less than $9.95. The shipping is the price.
All you have to do is pay
That I was in her chair.
for shipping, and you'll get these free gold coins with a beautiful weapon embroidered on them, and it's got American flag and a cool quote on the back.
You can't make this stuff up. This is hilarious.
There's nothing funny about
It's just really slick, really cool, and you could tell that you're a Second Amendment supporting American patriot. So if
I feel like if you had a gun, people would just know that if you open carry. Cascadia 93, it's not official currency, so it'll probably never have any value. Well, but like if you made like an actual gold, solid gold coin, or even like something that has gold in it, but it's not completely gold, it would be worth the gold price. So this is worth probably very, very little money because of the gold plating. But even then, I don't know if you could, like, let's say I go to a pawn shop with this coin and they take a look at it and they see it's gold plated. I don't even know if they're going to buy it, because the process of getting this actually, like, the gold plating removed, you would get so little out of it, I don't even think it would be worth it. So yeah, it's probably basically
There's
worthless.
nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Cascadia 93. Well, yeah, but this is less gold plating than a Sacagawea dollar coin, though. That is less gold plating than a did the Sacagawea dollar coins actually have gold plating?
If you're interested, if you enjoy this country and our rights and our Second Amendment right to bear arms, make sure you check out our exclusive link below and get yourself this.
Honestly, if this whole Twitch streaming thing doesn't work out, grifting right-wingers is not a bad
There's
business to
nothing
get
funny about the
into.
tools of capitalism.
Because they're very gullible, because as it turns out, when you're right-wing, it's probably indicative that you aren't very smart. So, grifting these people, not bad.
I want to see if she will come up.
Free gold coin. All you have to do is pay for shipping. Thanks for your time today.
Oh, I missed a thing. Highly interpreted. Did he just say that they embroidered a metal coin? Embroidered as in the type of art that requires fabrics and threads? I don't know. It might have a different meaning in terms of coins. I have no idea.
And now, back to the show. Great, now that that's out of the way, let's talk more about Sherlock Holmes and its feminist spin-off. This article has more details. It says the
Foil gold is incredibly inexpensive because it's just a few micrometers thick. Yeah, that's why the coin's worthless.
Curious Case of Sherlock Holmes feminist spin-offs, Netflix's Enola Holmes is only the latest attempt to insert a female protagonist into Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's stories. Now, that I think is already part of the problem. Here we could see other examples.
Hey, bud, it's in the public domain, at least most of it, and in a couple years, it'll all be in the public domain. It's fine. You can do whatever you want with public domain characters. Hey, no BS. How about this? If you want, you can go and write a Sherlock Holmes story where Sherlock Holmes is some kind of weird right-wing MRA. Go for it. You're allowed to do that. No one will want to see that except to laugh at it, but you're free to do so.
There's nothing
This is
funny
a
about
lady
the tools of
Sherlock.
Capitalism.
Paladin's Fury, I decided to waive my right to bear arms. I want a reindeer arms instead.
Holmes apparently some sort of minority as well. I'm familiar with this Lucy Liu character. I believe she plays Watson in a TV version of Sherlock called.
She does in Elementary, I think, is the show that she's in. I've heard it's okay if you want like procedural cop drama, but it's Sherlock Holmes in America. I haven't watched it though, except for the first episode.
Elementary, so they have like a female Asian Watson. This is the more recent Sherlock from the BBC series that was also featured on Netflix. That, of course, is Benedict Cumberbatch, one of my favorite portrayals, one of the great modern portrayals. But now we're going all the way to the front here. This is Enola Holmes. This is the new net.
Enola. He's not even pronouncing it right.
How's he
Like,
pronouncing it?
Enola. Daddy Sume with 10 bits. You have the right to bear arms, which means you have the right to have my bare arms wrapped around you in a warm, cuddly hug, because Daddy gives amazing hugs. Oh, God.
Netflix spinoff. She's the character from the Stranger Things series. She's called Millie Bobby Brown. That's the actress, and she's portraying like the younger sister of Sherlock. And before we even get to more details, I think we can already see the problem in its inserting a female protagonist into these stories. And
Why? What's the problem? It's not like she's solving, and even if she was, it wouldn't matter, but it's not like she's solving a Study in Scarlet or The Hound of the Baskervilles. She literally just also happens to be a detective by the end of the story. So she does her own cases and occasionally runs into Sherlock. But this is not like her replacing Sherlock. Sherlock is a main character in the story. No BS hasn't even seen the movie. I have. So I'm a million times more qualified to talk about this than he is.
It just goes to show this is the kind of style and the kind of lazy kind of reboots that a lot
It's not lazy. It's not even a reboot. It's just a different character in the same universe.
of leftists go for. They find another popular thing, like, for example,
Dr. Gamble with 10 bits. Females in my stories. Yeah.
in 2016, they decided they wanted a Ghostbusters movie, and instead of making their own Ghostbusting movie and, having it called something else like Girl Ghost Cops or something, they could have made a whole...
They're still mad about Ghostbusters. It's so funny. Like, guys, I didn't think Ghostbusters was funny either, but you know what? After the movie ended, I just haven't really thought about it, because when I watch a bad movie, I just think, oh, that wasn't very good, and then I move on with my life. I don't think it's indicative of some leftist conspiracy to undermine my worldview just because I don't like a movie. Daddy Sume with 10 bits. They. Who is they? Hollywood executives are not indicative of the left. They're indicative of greedy capitalism, yeah. No, but don't you understand? Somebody told, who was it that I watched the video of where they're like, oh, Doomcock. Didn't you hear, though, up until recently, Disney didn't operate as a for-profit company. You remember that?
Yeah.
Doomcock was like, moving forward, Disney will operate as a for-profit company. Moving forward.
Other thing, but instead they want to insert it into the Ghostbusters, the official series, which of course started in the 80s. It was all dudes. It was Bill Murray and a couple of other...
Look, dude, it's okay to like Ghostbusters. I like Ghostbusters, but it's not some holy thing. Chill out. They're already doing another reboot, by the way. Like, it's fine. Don't ever think that some movie series that you hold dear, or book series, or anything that's a commodity for any business, don't assume it's this pure thing that they'll never touch and, oh, it'll be ruined if some other thing happens to the series. Like, that's just not the reality of media entities in the 21st century. Daddy Sume with 10 bits. Well, now I need to play Nuka World again. Thanks, Hannah. I wish I could get Fallout 4 to work. Every time I play a new game of Fallout 4... I end up with, after playing it for, like, days, like, I'll get this thing where it thinks that my, like, save files can't save because it thinks my, like, storage is full, but it's not. It's awful. It's annoying. Makes it unplayable.
Other great comic actors, Dan Aykroyd, and that was a great original series, but then inserting the...
Let's not pretend people liked Ghostbusters 2. In hindsight, people have decided they like Ghostbusters 2, but people liked Ghostbusters, then Ghostbusters 2 came out, and people hated it. So, all the people who are, like, weren't born when Ghostbusters came out, including me, all the people like this who weren't born when Ghostbusters came out saying, like, oh, the series was perfect until Ghostbusters 2016. People hated Ghostbusters 2 when it came out. What are you talking about? Andrew Dickerson. Is he mad about the Great Ace Attorney series where Watts is an 8-year-old little girl, or the new English VTuber Watson Amelia? I'm not familiar with any of those. I have no idea if he is, so.
The females is where it's just kind of lazy and problematic and just woke. And
what's problematic about it? I'm curious if you even know what that word actually means. Please explain to me how having a character that is a woman is problematic. Please explain.
a lot of times, in addition, they don't just go with it and have a cool story that happens to be a girl. They make it all about being a girl. Like, it's all about feminism and girl power. And also, in addition, a lot of feminists make the mistake of overly bashing men. So part of like the feminist ethos, part of their sort of personality in the modern era is hating on men. So they bash
women are problematic. Also, did you know women hate men?
Men, which happened in Ghostbusters 2016. It's happened in many other lady reboots. Ocean's 11 had a lady reboot recently that had similar problems, and that's how I see this whole Enola Holmes thing too. It's trying to be feminist. It's trying to kind of steal shine from a more popular male character, which is just what happens in all these cases. It's
Hey, dipshit. Sherlock Holmes is one of the most prolific film characters of all time. So it's up there. I think the top two are Sherlock Holmes and Dracula. The most media of any singular characters has been about Sherlock or been about Dracula. Out of the 10,000 Sherlock Holmes things, the fact that there happens to be one popular kids book series that stars his sister, and then they adapt it into a movie, doesn't do anything to harm the character Sherlock Holmes. Very, very stupid take.
It's like they can't make their own thing and try to get popular on their own, so they have to invade a male space and take
Excuse me, ladies, Sherlock Holmes is my male safe space. And if you invade my very, very heteronormative safe space where Sherlock Holmes lives with his best friend, Watson, please, women, please get out of my clubhouse. It's my Sherlock Holmes clubhouse. No women allowed. Thank you. This is the end of my TEDx talk.
it over and just totally pervert the whole point. When Dr. John Watson agreed to share lodgings with a friend of a friend in 1887's A Study in Scarlet, one of popular fiction's great oses was born. Inside the sanctum of 2021B Baker Street, Holmes and Watson existed in a fantasy of late Victorian homosociality, a cross between Oxbridge undergraduate life and feckless bohemia. Their world was incomplete yet perfect, like all fantasies, as bewitching for what it excluded: regular hours, real jobs, sexuality, and its discontents. As for the pipe smoking,
no one tell this guy about the Watson Sherlock shippers.
disguises and idle gunplay that is contained, Arthur Conan Doyle got tired of it all long before his fans did, and married Watson off to a woman who mattered so little to her creator that he could not remember if she was alive or dead, and he killed off Holmes himself in 1893. 10 years later, popular demand obliged Conan Doyle to resurrect the great detective, whereupon Watson moved right back to the Baker Street flat. These two friends live forever, nurtured by
friends. I shouldn't say that. I know the original intent is they're actually friends. A little bit gay, though.
By the redoubtable Miss Hudson, and perpetually ready to take on the next adventure. Fans all over the globe adore the bubble in which the Sherlock Holmes stories take place. But at the same time, many can't resist the urge to pop in. So we'll get more to that. But essentially, we're recapping how Sir Arthur Conan Doyle tried to retire his character. He brought it back by popular demand. He created this wonderful detective character. Sherlock Holmes is legendary. You know, more details for those who don't know. He's just like super smart. He's a private detective too. So he's not.
I hate this attitude, by the way, of like any character, especially if it's in the public domain, when there's no canon at all at this point. Just being like, let me tell you how amazing this character is, and how great he is, and how he's the bestest ever. And also, he's in the public domain, but don't you dare do anything different with him, okay? Don't you dare do anything different with this character, or I'm gonna okay? I'm gonna until my head explodes, okay? Look, bud, I don't know if you know how the history of storytelling has worked, but especially prior to, like, this idea of, like, IP, intellectual property, if there was a character people liked, they'd just make stories about them, and it was all canon or none of it was canon, whatever you wanted it to be, and it's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. No one tell this guy about fan fiction. Oh, boy. Some of the biggest media franchises on the planet exist because of fan fiction. 50 Shades of Grey. And I know someone like No BS would be like, one of the biggest media franchises. Yeah, bud. There are movies and books other than those that are read by straight white dudes. 50 Shades of Grey was a huge, huge cultural phenomenon, and so were the movies. I don't think they're good, but a lot of people read them. And they exist because they're fan fiction. They were fan fiction of Twilight that was then adapted into its own thing by E.L. James. So, let's not pretend that the sanctity of characters has brought us more art than throwing it all to the wind and saying, hey, what if this? Like, Sherlock itself, the show that he already said he liked, took the conceit of Sherlock and completely changed it, basically. He's no longer a Victorian detective. He lives in the modern day. Not only that, but he seems to be a little on the spectrum, you know? Which Sherlock could be pretty closed off in the books, but he's not the same as Sherlock in, like, the Sherlock show. Why does this dude sound like a fourth grader giving a book report they didn't actually read or prep for in any way? I doubt this guy's read a single Sherlock Holmes story. Which is fine. No one should be obliged to. But if you're gonna act like you have this huge boner for Sherlock Holmes, maybe read a book. That'd be good. Dr. Gamble with 100 bits. Send them all to fan fiction. And then the Stellar Sea Cow. How about the fact that for most of us, that the canon, the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle stories, how about the fact that most of the canon for the King Arthur stories started out as basically fan fiction? Yeah, it's like that. Like, I'm sure there are tons of stories, and I know this isn't a popular character anymore, but like, Robin Hood. Robin Hood was a really, really popular fantasy character, sort of fantasy. In that he didn't really exist, but he existed in a real location. You know what I mean? Within the stories. But, like, anyone could make a Robin Hood story. Just seems weird. When things go into the public domain, you can do whatever you want to them. And even when they're not, if you own the copyright to something or you own the trademark, then you can do whatever you want. Do away with this idea of, like, the sanctity of your franchises. It's not going to do you any good. Let it go.
Really like cop or some kind of like authority figure. He just solves crimes and cases because it interests him, and he's got this like super high intellect, and he can always like spot the little details. Like he could see there's a little dust on your shoe, he could smell a little smoke on your jacket. Like he's got these like heightened senses, not like supernatural heightened, just like he's very, very alert and very, very smart, and he's critical thinking. He could solve problems and like think 10 steps ahead. You know, a lot of cool stuff in there. And the other interpretation I'd bring up here is a good interpretation was Sherlock Holmes played by Robert Downey Jr. That was actually a really good one. Him making that movie with, I believe, Guy Ritchie was a good...
See, that's super weird that he's also lauding, like, he's saying that, like, the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock movies are good. And I agree. I like the Robert Downey Sherlock movies, but they basically turned Sherlock Holmes into an action movie star, which is very antithetical to the Sherlock of the books. But he's okay with it because Sherlock's the main character in that one. Like, the only thing he seems to not like about Enola Holmes isn't that it's disrespecting canon, because he just listed multiple things that have disrespected canon in one way or another. It just seems like he's mad that there's a character that's the main character that's a woman. And that's what annoys him. And it's childish. It's incredibly childish.
Good series. There was 2 of them. I believe they might be making another follow-up later on. I was hoping and hearing about that recently, but essentially, yeah, that was a really good one. It used like slow motion, and it showed him looking at little details, thinking ahead. It was just like a really well done way of getting into his mind and his thinking. And, you know, the BBC series Sherlock with Benedict up here, that had some similar things in it, and it's always going to be similar in each interpretation. But yeah, the point is, he's this great super detective, really smart, and that's why the character's beloved, and that's why Conan Doyle had to bring it back. And then now that's why they're trying to lady reboot it and invade this space, which is just kind of cheap.
You can't invade my public domain space. Hey, I don't know how to break this to you, no BS. You don't own the space of a franchise, especially not one that's in the public domain. You liking something is not make it something someone else can invade for doing something else with it. What do you mean invading male space? It's a public domain character. They can be used in anything. Like, I could go and write a fan fiction tomorrow, and it's Sherlock Holmes railing no BS right in the butt. And that's the entirety of the fan fiction. Just sensual, sweet, deductive lovemaking between Sherlock Holmes and no BS. And that would be fine. The character, as written in the books by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, still exists. If you want that to be your canon, that's fine. Other people can make literally whatever material they want with the character. That's how the public domain works.
And lame, as we said before. Holmes is the prototype of a certain kind of male hero, aloof, ascetic, a
Ask Compu, discombobulate him right in the butt.
proponent of pure rationalism and ostensibly
Pure rationalism, oh boy.
immune to emotion and snares of romantic love. Star Trek's Mr. Spock is another. Characters like this serve as batteries for the fanish imagination. They generate pastiches, spin-offs, and vast databases of
Yes, pastiche spin-off. Hello? Hello? Enola Holmes is a spin-off, you dumb fuck.
Nothing funny
fiction.
about the
It's
tools of
precise.
capitalism.
Iron Q Bolt with 10 bits read that fan fiction in a heartbeat, but no BS must have a real bull's head, of course.
Precisely because Holmes seems to lack ordinary human weaknesses that writers of all kinds want to imagine him succumbing to them, whether it's the addiction that compels him to undergo psychotherapy in this novel or the secret passion for Watson himself in another series like the Sherlock TV series. One thing conspicuously missing from Sherlock Holmes' story is a significant female protagonist. Miss Hudson plays mom, underscoring that her tenants are just two overgrown boys, and Mary Watson, when she finally comes along, is a cookie-cutter angel in the house. And then there's Irene Adler, opera singer, adventuress, and one of only 4 people, as well as the only woman to outwit Holmes. After every afterword, according to Watson, the great detective referred to her as the woman, but she appears in only one of Conan Doyle's stories, A Scandal in Bohemia. So this is the character that ends up being like a romantic interest for Sherlock Holmes. And I remember Adler appeared in the BBC series, and she comes up when they do want to bring in a girl character. But really what's going on is they're getting at is Holmes is just not interested. Like, he's just not interested in dating and hooking
Why are you talking about this in a review that's about his sister?
up and like having dates and girlfriends and stuff. Like, there's just some people that never marry, you know. It's like almost like an asexual kind of thing. That's the way I saw it in some interpretations.
And yes, she's only mentioned in the one story in the original books, and they're not a thing. That's only a thing in, like, later adaptions. Which makes sense as an adaptation. Like, if you're adapting it and you like that character, you might say, oh, well, she was sort of a match for Sherlock, so why wouldn't it be the case that they might have some sort of interest or whatever? But, yeah, no. In the original book, it wasn't like that.
It really depends on which one you're watching. I mean, I wouldn't even say that would be that far. It would just maybe be like, he's just too busy. He doesn't think about it. He might like girls and he might want to hook up one day and have a kid, but
Or he's roommates with Watson for the greater part of a decade. And they spend all their time together and have similar interests in that they both solve mysteries together and whatever.
the current time, he's just like one of those guys who just is always doing
Dude spanking dudes with 10 bits watching Dumbo on Disney Plus, and Jesus, the "We Work All Day, We Work All Night" song is really racist. The lyrics go to, oh, yeah, no, not gonna read that, but yeah.
experiment, always busy on something, you know, one of those like mad scientist types who doesn't really have it in them. And I think the reason this article is bringing it up is just to kind of bring up like there's not enough girls in the series. That's the whole point. That's the whole problem for them. But I don't see that as a real issue. I think
That's fine, and you don't have to see it as an issue if you don't want to, but you're also not producing a movie. Millie Bobby Brown and whoever produced it with her is. And they would like to do this with these public domain characters, so they will, and that's fine.
Would you turn the lights up in the living room?
Yeah.
I think that's only an issue if you're like looking at stuff and trying to think, hey, let's fill these check marks. Does it have enough women? Does it have enough minorities? Does it have enough, you know, woke messages? And I just don't judge things like that, especially art and movies.
I don't know, man. Like, I'm a white man, and literally all media in the 20th century, and even prior to that, in the Western world, was made specifically with me in mind, so I just don't have to think about these things. Yeah, that must be very, very good for you. I'm happy. I'm happy for you. But other people don't have that same benefit, where the vast majority of all media put out in the last 200 years was made for them. So that's why this happens? Do you understand? Do you understand that you don't have to think about this? Imagine if, like, only a small percentage of all the movies, all the books to be made that you're aware of, all starred women, and none of them had themes that resonated with you as a man. you'd probably start to be like, wow, there are no male characters in these books, and there are no male role models or male protagonists. But there is, so you don't have to think about that. Sorry, I'm just switching the lights on for her with my phone.
In entertainment, like some of them happen to have a lot of guys, some of them have a lot of girls too. Like there's different kinds of movies. This is just the story and the way Sherlock Holmes tends to play out. And as the article goes on here, they finally talk about Enola. That's from the director of Fleabag. It stars the Stranger Things actor Millie Bobby Brown, as I mentioned earlier. That's the teenage sister of Sherlock Holmes, who is played by Henry Cavill. There's a Henry Cavill Sherlock in this movie, which is kind of cool. I mean, that's a great actor. You know, he played Superman. He's pretty cool. And the fact that he's in there as a side Sherlock Holmes side character is funny, but again, it's definitely pushing the girl power stuff.
What's funny about it? It's literally her brother, and part of her motivation for being a detective in the end. Like, she has great respect for her brother, even though he... Again, I saw the movie. You didn't. Why am I even talking like you saw the movie? Why are you making this video to just bitch about the fact that it's a movie with a woman in it? It's so stupid.
Stuff and showing this whole thing where it's like, oh, we have to have a girl version. Enola is sweet and stylish, but also entirely predictable, right down to the many exaggerations to defy convention, coming from such inspirational figures as Enola's mother and her suffragette friends. So we've got her mother being a suffragette, like fighting for women's rights.
Suffragette? Is that what you mean? Does he not even know how to pronounce suffragette? What a weirdo.
It's like literal feminist in this film. And
oh no, not the radical feminist suffragettes who want women to have the right to vote. Oh.
And albeit it's in the Victoria era, this is actually when the original...
Funny about the tools of capitalism.
Stellar Sea Cow, he doesn't know how to pronounce Enola, and I mean, that's the name of the plane that dropped the atomic bombs. Yeah, the Enola Gay. I'm familiar. Cascadia 93, this reminds me of H Bomber Guy's video about Star Wars reviewers, and none of them saw or finished the movie before doing their reviews. Funny.
Feminists popped up, and they had a point back then. You know, they actually had rights to fight.
Don't you love this when this comes from Emma Rays too? Oh boy, when feminists actually had things to fight for, everything's actually completely equitable now. So actually, feminists, just stop. Just stop now. Just stop. Just stop now. Stop. Just stop. Just stop. Just stop. No. So stupid.
Fight for. There was like the right to vote and own property and stuff like that, depending on which country. I know this is set in Britain, usually London, but yeah, there was actually a need. These are like original feminists, but the fact that they're putting them in a Sherlock Holmes thing and making this new movie featuring stuff about them, it's
a movie starring a woman in the Victorian era. It makes sense to bring up social issues in regards to gender, and it is something that comes up in the movie. Furious Aptus, thank you for following. Welcome to the stream.
obviously
Why is he showing GTA 5? I have no idea.
Being brought up now in the present to get in on this woke stuff, to show that they're girl power. I'm sure when they pitch this movie, that's the kind of thing I like to think of, especially since South Park made that great joke about Netflix a few years back when they were goofing on them. Like the South Park boys were trying to pitch a show and they called Netflix and the guy's like, he's like, hello, you reached Netflix. You're greenlit. What's your story? And basically they answer the phone and they greenlit you without even knowing what your story is. Greenlight means they just
I'm pretty sure that was a Rick and Morty joke. Unless South Park also did it, I'm not sure.
just approve your movie to be made, your show to be made. And in Netflix, in the
God, I hate South Park so much at this point. In fairness, I haven't watched South Park in like 3 years or so. Not since the last season of South Park I watched was the Member Berries season. I'm so over, and maybe it's just because I got older. It would make sense. I'm so over South Park's juvenile view of the world. Like, every single situation is like, oh, you care about a thing? That's lame. let me tell you why it's actually good not to ever care about anything. And actually, regardless of the situation, I'm going to say that being in the middle is always correct, no matter what the situation is. It's incredibly juvenile, and I really, really don't like it.
And then South Park version, they were goofing on them because they just greenlight everything. They don't really think
South Park is enlightened centrism with dick jokes, basically.
much about it. And the way I see this pitch, I believe Enola Holmes was probably pitched as a girl Sherlock Holmes. And
Like, literally. And it makes South Park wrong all the time, too. Like, do you guys remember? South Park did a whole episode where they were making fun of global warming as a concept. Where they're like, actually, global warming isn't that big of an issue. And later, they made an episode where they were like, oh shit, we were wrong. Global warming is wrong. But it's not like they've changed their modus operandi on things and actually start being like, oh, maybe on some issues, a single person, or a single group is more right than the other. It seems like, and again, haven't seen the last 3 seasons, so it's entirely possible they've changed. But last time I saw, they were still pushing this all like, if there's an extreme right and a left, then clearly the answer is somewhere exactly in the middle of those two positions. It's very stupid.
And Netflix was like, all right, here's $1 million, make the movie. You know, like it was on, like it was going from that point. And that's just showing you how simple and just feeble-minded these kinds of harebrained leftist ideas are.
All these feeble-minded leftist ideas, like having a movie starring a woman. You okay? You okay, bud?
Sure, this movie could be interesting too. It does have a good cast. Helena Bonham Carter is another cast member I am familiar with up here. She's really good, and I'm sure it's interesting, but the greater point is the propaganda angle, the whole Sherlock being feminized and being
Sherlock is not feminized. Sherlock is in the movie. He's still Sherlock Holmes. Having a woman as the main character in a movie doesn't make Sherlock Holmes feminine.
being kind of like made into this beta side character and his
Beta side character. If Sherlock Holmes and his giant man cock aren't on screen at all times, then is it even a movie?
own series. I mean, surely he's had enough movies too. Like, we understand, like, it's been done.
Why is Abby Shapiro? What? What?
And making a new take is interesting, but the fact of the matter is they're piggybacking on Sherlock Holmes's fame, and they're making this feminist reboot, and it's being done.
Feminist reboot, bud. Something having a woman in it does not automatically make it feminist. What do you not understand?
On Netflix.
There are two genders, men and political. Get your politics out of my movies.
One of the worst woke offenders of our lifetime. That about wraps things up. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Also hit that like button to get this shared. Subscribe if you're new, and hit the bell for notifications.
Why is Abby Shapiro here? Does anyone know why?
Too. Until next time, have a great day.
Wow. For a guy named No Bullshit, that sure was a whole lot of bullshit.